May proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Agent Cinciano is going to show you these evidence baggies from SLED. Can you take a look at that?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do those appear to be the buccal swabs that you collected from Paul and Maggie Murdaugh?
They are.
And how do you know that?
Both of these have my initials, the date, and a description on them, and they're sealed with my initials and the date.
And looking at those, can you tell if anyone else?
Yes, ma'am. There's a additional lab number, an item number, and 2 other initials on them.
So once you collected those, it would appear that someone from the lab performed analysis on those swabs.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you're on.
Don't worry, guys. I'm here. I saw that the case came on.
At this time, I would offer case
I
exhibit
saw that it was on,
102
so I'm here.
and 202.
I'm also trying
for
to. I'm finishing up the.
identification purposes only. As, case exhibit
Guys, give me a little bit.
201, excuse me, being a buccal swab of Paul Murdaugh.
Give me a little bit, and I'll be jumping in. But I
202
wanted to start the stream so you guys can see what's going on.
Buccal swab from Margaret Murdaugh, and
I'll be right back on, guys.
To enter these into evidence.
Any objection?
Okay.
They're entered into evidence as those exhibit numbers.
Thank you. Agent Srenciong, did you do anything else in regards to this case?
Yes, ma'am. Once I cleared from the Carlton Medical Center collecting the buccal swabs, I was requested by Captain Ryan Neal with the SLED Low Country region to respond to the initial scene of the crime scene and collect a cell phone that was collected by their agents via chain of custody.
Whose cell phone did you collect from Ryan Neal? Do you know?
Whose cell phone it was a iPhone cell phone with a clear case.
And what did you do with that cell phone when you collected it?
The cell phone was collected by a chain of custody with Captain Ryan Neal, and then it was placed in a brown paper bag, sealed, and transported back to the SLED Forensic Laboratory, where it was chained over to Lieutenant Todd Shank.
No further. Srenciong, I'm going to show you case exhibits 203 and 205. y'all. This is Tate's Exhibit 204, which is the cell phone, along with a paper bag here. Can you tell that's the paper bag that you collected this cell phone and put that cell phone in that paper bag?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And how can you tell that?
It's got my handwriting on it with my initials and the date and a description of the cell phone.
This time, the state would offer State's Exhibit 204 into evidence.
Just for identification, object to it coming into evidence.
It'll be marked for identification, those two exhibits.
That's not the phone, those are the chain.
The phone.
Is that the phone or is that the chain of evidence?
State's Exhibit 204 is the cell phone.
Marked for identification, Your Honor. We have no objection to being
204
marked.
is for identification.
And Agent Cirencione, if you could take a look at State's Exhibits 205 and 203 and tell us what those appear to be.
Both of these are chains of custody from myself to my lieutenant at the time and from Captain Ryan Neal to myself and then from myself to Todd Shank. They're both for the cell phone as well as the buccal swabs.
So those forms show where you collected or received the buccal swabs in the cell phone. Is that right?
They're a chain of custody, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Nothing further at this time, Your Honor.
Yes.
Ma'am, what is it you do for SLED? I mean, I understand you receive things, you take buccal swabs, but are you transport things or do you have another role at SLED?
I'm currently a special agent with the behavioral science unit.
Okay. At this time, in June of 2021, what were you doing?
In June of 2021, I was a agent with the crime scene unit. With the crime scene unit.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
You help process crime scenes.
Yes, sir. I respond to the state and process crime scenes, collect evidence, document evidence, write reports, and so on, and testify in court proceedings.
And did you do any crime scene processing other than receiving these items in this case?
No, sir, I did not.
Okay. So, what happened to, where's that cell phone?
All exhibits, once they've been marked for identification, they remain with the court reporters.
So, and I'm, guess I put this here. You received this cell phone. They didn't tell you it was Maggie Murdaugh's phone, did they?
No, sir.
But you received this cell phone on the morning of what? When?
It was June 8th.
June 8th, the morning after the murders.
Yes, sir. It was June 8th, 2024.
And where was the agent that gave this to you? Where did he meet you?
The initial crime scene?
Okay, at the house, by the dog pens, where?
In the yard near the kennels. And
Okay.
yes, sir.
And when you received it, was it on or off?
I don't recall.
Yo,
Um,
thanks for
Are
popping
you
in.
aware that cell phones can continue to receive information or erase memory after they're, at any point, but specifically when you're trying to preserve evidence? Do you know whether to turn it off or leave it on? Anybody instruct you on that?
I'm not an expert with the cell phones, so I'm not sure, sir.
Okay. Secondly, do you know what a Faraday bag is?
No, sir.
Okay, a Faraday bag, for your edification, is something you put an electronic device in so that
Guys, I'm
no
almost
one
done with the new episode. I'm
access
be
it,
jumping back
can't
in.
receive new data.
Objection, Your Honor. Is there a question?
There it is, I'm getting to it. And it can't erase data.
I'm almost done, y'all. I'm
Did
going
you
to
know
jump
that?
back in. Keep watching the stream.
No, sir.
You're in the crime scene. Have you ever recovered phones before?
Yes, we recover cell phones, but they're typically collected directly by computer crimes or the regional agents.
Okay, so in this instance, though, they were not done the normal way, is what you're saying, the usual way. They gave it to you.
This way, it was just directly transferred to myself so I could bring it back to the SLED lab.
And no one cautioned you about putting it in a Faraday bag or not turning it off.
Not that day, no, sir.
So would that have been, and who gave it to you, agent?
Captain Ryan Neal with SLED Low Country.
Okay. And he just handed it to you, and you put it in a brown paper bag, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you don't know whether it was on or off.
I don't recall.
And there's a passcode in this bag with it. Do you know where that came from?
I wrote the passcode that I was given on the brown paper bag.
Okay. And then somebody else wrote it on this piece of paper?
I did not write it on that piece of paper.
Okay, just to be clear, you were not asked to handle this cell phone any different than if you'd been given a can of pork and beans to put in evidence, right? Is that right?
It depends if the pork and beans were evidence, but.
Well, assume there's a can of pork and beans and it's a piece of evidence and they want you to transport it. Did they give you any special instructions about the cell phone as opposed to a can of pork and beans?
No, sir. The cell phone was collected using gloves and directly placed into the brown paper bag, sealed, initialed, dated. A description was written and it was transported straight to the forensic lab for processing.
And you don't know whether it was open, whether it had been shut down or was still on?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Can I put this back in the paper bag so I don't drop it again?
Sure.
Thank you for the indulgence, one moment. Thank you, ma'am.
Redirect.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. You may step down. And you may call your next witness. Do you have another witness available at this time?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. You may approach.
We're happy to get started, Your Honor.
Melinda Worley.
Raise your right hand and left hand on the Bible. Do you affirm the testimony about the report in this trial shall be the truth and nothing but the truth? Won't you take a seat in the witness stand? State your name again for the record. Spell your last name.
Melinda Worley, Worley.
Good afternoon, Agent Worley.
Good afternoon.
Could you tell the jurors where you work?
I work for SLED
And how long have you worked for SLED?
since August of 2011.
And what is your current position at SLED?
I'm currently a senior criminalist in the latent print unit of the Forensic Services Lab.
Can you tell the jury a little bit about your education and training and other experiences at SLED that have led you to this point?
Sure. I have a Bachelor's of Science degree in anthropology from the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, a Bachelor of Science degree in Forensic Science from Mercyhurst College, a Master's of Science in Forensic Science from the University of Florida. And along with the master's degree, I also received a graduate certificate in forensic death investigation. I started at SLED in 2011 in the crime scene unit as a special agent. I followed through the training program that SLED provides in-house. I finished that, I believe it was July of 2012. And at that point, I was able to take cases as a crime scene agent. But shortly thereafter, I also started training in the discipline of footwear and tire tread examination. I finished that training in March of 2014. And so then I was doing crime scene and footwear and tire cases until August of 2022. I transferred out of the crime scene unit to the latent print unit. I also switched from being a class 1 law enforcement officer, I was a senior special agent, to a class 3 law enforcement officer. So now I'm a senior criminalist and a footwear and tire examiner.
And so, I mean, as far as crime scene goes, can you tell us about any special training that you have pertaining to crime scene specifically?
I've taken several courses in bloodstain pattern analysis, shooting reconstruction, archaeology, forensic archaeology, and clandestine graves, photography.
And back in 2021, you were a crime scene investigator, is that correct?
That's correct.
And now you are in the footwear and tire examination, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what would be the appropriate title for that?
Footwear and tire examiner.
Okay. And what other additional qualifications do you have to examine footwear and tire impressions?
I've taken 2 40-hour courses related to footwear, and I've completed approximately 50 footwear cases since I was completed my training in 2014. I've testified as an expert witness 9 times, qualified.
Is that in state court?
Yes, ma'am.
And you said about how many, I guess, cases have you had where you have examined footwear and tire impressions? If you could give us an estimate here.
As far as the actual scenes I've worked with that had footwear, or just in general footwear?
In general.
I think it's around 50 cases.
Your Honor, this time I would move to qualify Investigator Worley as an expert in footwear and tire examination.
Says the defense.
No objection, Your Honor. She's obviously qualified.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, where a witness, by virtue of their education and experience, become what the court considers an expert in some field, that witness can give opinions where lay witnesses typically cannot. And this witness has been qualified and now is accepted as an expert witness in the field of, is it footwear examination and what else?
Tire impressions, Your Honor.
And tire impressions. And you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So Agent Worley, back in June of 2021, what was your role at SLED again?
I was in the crime scene unit.
As a crime scene investigator?
That's right.
And can you tell us just some of the general procedures of a crime scene investigator who responds to a crime scene?
Sure. We are requested to respond to crime scenes anywhere in the state. When the sheriff's office or police department requests our assistance with a crime scene, we document the scene with photographs and draw sketches, take measurements. We collect evidence, document it, collect it, package it appropriately, maintain chain of custody.
Is there any special kind of protocol that y'all follow?
We do have a protocol manual, yes.
Okay. Do you ever wear any type of gowns or coverings or anything like that out to a crime scene?
We always wear gloves, no matter what. Depends on the scene, I guess, as far as if we're going to wear any booties or anything else.
Okay. Would it be normal protocol to wear booties to an outdoor crime scene?
Not the way we've operated now.
Okay. Why not?
It's not usually, not usually necessary, I guess, as far as watching where you're stepping and not stepping in blood or any tire or footwear impressions or anything. We just don't normally wear booties.
And when you're at a crime scene, are you looking for microscopic evidence?
Well, we don't carry microscopes other than swabbing items at a scene. We would collect potential evidence that way by swabbing it.
All right, let's move on to your involvement in this case. Did you have the occasion to respond to Moselle Road on June 7th?
I did.
Okay. What time did you respond out there?
I believe we arrived around 12:07 a.m.
Okay. And Are you aware of what time this, the crime occurred?
I'm not sure about the time it occurred. I know the time I was notified.
Okay, and what time was that?
We were notified around 10:33 p.m.
So it took you roughly 2 hours to get out to the crime scene. Why was that?
We respond from Columbia.
All right. So what did you see when you got out there?
The scene entailed the area where the kennels were located. There was a large workshop with an overhang on between the workshop and where the dog kennels were. There was a sort of gravel path driveway between the kennels and that overhang. The sheriff's office had brought out a canopy to cover Maggie's body to protect her from the rain.
And what were the weather conditions?
It was raining lightly.
What is one of the first things you did when you got out there?
We met with David Owen, Special Agent David Owen, and regional agents to kind of get a little more information about what the scene entailed. And we did a little initial walkthrough to see the sheriff's office had marked some potential evidence. So we walked around to see what was what and see if we could find any additional evidence before we started taking photographs.
Do you recall collecting a shotgun from Agent Daniel Green, or excuse me, Officer or Sergeant Daniel Green?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And how did that occur?
He had maintained custody of a shotgun and needed to transfer it to me. So he brought it over to my truck and we put it in a gun box. We took photographs of it and rendered it safe.
Was that gun loaded or unloaded when you took custody of it?
It was loaded.
And did you unload that weapon?
I did.
And why would you do that?
We always render a firearm safe before we transport it.
Agent Corley, I'm going to show you what's already been entered as Tate's Exhibit 4, along with the rifle, or excuse me, shotgun that was collected. Could you tell us what you have there?
It's one of the 2 shot shells that were in the shotgun.
And that's a shot shell that you unloaded from this gun?
That's right.
Okay, what gauge is that?
This one is 16 gauge.
And the correct caliber for that gun is a 12 gauge?
That's right.
Since Daniel Green collected that gun, did you take a buccal swab from him?
We did, yes.
And why would you do that?
In case his DNA was on the firearm, we would need to eliminate him or know that was his.
Agent Worley, this is Tate's Exhibit 249. Does that appear to be the buccal swab you collected from Daniel Green?
Yes, it is.
And how can you tell?
It has my handwriting, my initials. The seal tape has my initials with my handwriting for the date.
This time the state would offer state's exhibit 249 into evidence.
It's admitted without objection.
Mr. Corley, if you can take a look at state's exhibit 17. Do you recognize what is in that picture?
I do.
Is that a true and accurate representation?
It is.
Got it. This time I'll move state's exhibit 17 into evidence.
Would you identify what it is before we do that? I mean, no objection, no objection, no objection.
What is it?
It's the shotgun that I took custody of, and the 12 gauge and the 16 gauge shot shells that I removed from the shotgun.
It's admitted without objection.
And if you could, for the jury, could you tell us which shells we're looking at here?
The one on the left is the 12 gauge, and the one on the right is 16 gauge.
And those are the shells you unloaded from that gun?
They are.
And you described the crime scene. If you could, State's Exhibit 22, it's previously been entered. Could you describe that to the jury?
That's the large overhang on the side of the workshop. The doghouse that's just outside that overhang, and the Maggie's body is lying there underneath that canopy. The kennels are in the background.
How did you discover Paul's body or observe Paul's body?
He was when we arrived, he was still covered with a pink sheet, but we could tell he was lying face down just outside the feed room.
And when you, how did you process the area around?
We start with documenting the area with photographs, photographing the evidence that the sheriff's office had already marked, do overall mid-range and close-up of each item of evidence, photograph the victims as they were when we arrived before the sheets were moved or anything.
This time I'm going to publish State's Exhibit 24, which is a sealed exhibit. Does this picture show how you found Paul's body?
After we documented him with the sheet over him and the coroner removed the sheet, yes, that is what it looked like.
And he appears to be laying outside of a feed room.
That's correct.
Did you process that feed room?
After he was removed from the area, we went in the room to process the room.
And if you look at that picture there, it appears that there's something laying on the back of his shorts there.
Yes, that's right.
And what was that?
I was told it was his cell phone.
States Exhibit 25. Do you recognize that picture?
Yes,
And what is that?
that is the cell phone on the back of his shorts.
This time the state would move States Exhibit 25 into evidence.
No objection, Your Honor.
Submit it.
And this is the cell phone that was laying on top of Paul's body.
That's right.
Now, did y'all process the inside of the feed room?
We did.
Agent Worley, I'm going to ask you to take a look. It takes exhibits 26, 27, 28, 30. If you can. 31, 32, 35, 198, 199, 38, 39, 40, 42, 43, 44, and 45, please. Agent Worley, in general, what are those pictures of?
They're all taken inside the feed room. A lot of them are footwear impressions.
And are those true and accurate representations of the feed room as it was the night of the murders on June 7th?
Yes, they are.
Your Honor, at this time, I would offer those exhibits into evidence.
Exhibit numbers again.
Your Honor, that takes exhibits 27, 26, 30, 28, 31, 35, 32, 198, 199, 38, 39, 40, 42, 43, 44, and 45.
They're admitted without objection.
Agent Worley, takes exhibit 27. If you could tell the jurors what they're looking at in this picture.
That's a view looking from the door into the feed room.
And what can we see on the floor there?
There's marker 1 is the shot shell wad. There's also suspected blood and tissue, possible pieces of skull on the floor.
And then looking back at that window.
There were several bullet defects in the window in the glass.
And states exhibit 26.
That's showing the feed room also, but it's showing more of the door, the outside of the door.
And if you notice the top of the door, what can you see up there?
It looks like blood, and there's also hair on top of the door.
States exhibit 30.
That's behind the door to the feed room.
Okay. And what's back there?
There were two 12-gauge shot shells on the fired shot shells on the floor behind the door, and also there was hair behind the door.
States exhibit 31.
That was after we marked the two fired shot shells as markers 9 and 10, and also showing them the shot shell wad at marker 1 in the same photo.
And states exhibit 26.
And that's a close-up of the shot shell wad at marker 1, and there's also a partial footwear impression in blood.
And do we see some little round pellets there?
Yes, there were pellets on the floor.
$32.
And that's a close-up of the shot shells at 9 and 10.
Were those shot shells collected?
Yes, they were.
Agent Worley, when those shot shells were collected, what did you do with them?
We photographed them first before we pick them up. We packaged them, write the information on the packaging as what it is, where it came from at marker 9 and 10, date and initial and time it was collected.
And were they submitted to the lab and placed in these big plastic bags?
I transferred them to a crime scene lieutenant.
I'll ask you to take a look at these for me. Do those appear to contain item 1 and items 9 and 10,
Yes,
and also some other items that were collected?
yes. A way to open them?
Your Honor, this time I will have Agent Corley open the bag and remove items 1 and items 9 and 10.
Thank you.
All right, so item 1 is what?
That is the why on the seal on the tape.
And then item 9 and item 10.
And these are the two shot shells, fired shot shells at markers 9 and 10. Sorry, this one is the one at marker 9. It's 12 gauge federal, and one at marker 10 was, I believe, Winchester 12 gauge.
This time, let's take and move items 29, the shot, I guess the shot shell wad, and item 34, the 12 gauge Federal, and item 33, 12 gauge Winchester into evidence.
Okay.
Without objection.
Right, also in that feed room, we were looking at what appeared to be some bloody footprints. Is that right,
got
Agent
them back.
Corley?
That's right.
You can see those footprints here in State's Exhibit 27.
You can see them.
About State's Exhibit 35 here.
Yes, there are two right there at marker 1.
So right down in here.
Yes.
All right. So in your training and experience as a footwear examiner, did you have occasion to examine those footprints?
I did.
And did you have some shoes to compare those footprints to?
Yes, I took custody of the shoes that Paul was wearing when I attended his autopsy. I was able to compare those to the footwear impressions in the feed room.
And now how do you do that?
We make test impressions of the shoes after they've been photographed with ink on the bottom of the shoe. I have someone similar who wears the same size, usually wears the shoe and steps on a piece of cardstock paper. We make as many test impressions as we
No,
need to make
Jason, I
sure I've
never have
gotten
been
all the
called.
area at the bottom of the shoe.
But I would.
Then I reprint those test impressions
I would
on
go.
transparencies. It makes it easier to overlay those on top of the photographs of the unknown impressions at the crime scene. And I compare the unknown impressions from the crime scene to the overlays that I place of Paul's shoes.
So you make a transparent overlay and you place it on pictures to determine if they correspond.
That's right.
State's Exhibit.
He definitely looks
148.
nervous. Yo, like he looks nervous.
What is that?
That
But
is
I can't
a
tell.
printed version of the
Like, what do
test
y'all think? Is he
impressions
nervous
that we created of
because-
Paul's shoes.
And State's Exhibit
He
199.
knows, like, oop. Looks like I got
That one is
caught.
the right
I
shoe.
think he's nervous
The first one was
because
the left shoe.
And there are, I guess, 2
he doesn't want to be
impressions of each
wrongly
shoe there.
convicted.
That's
It's
right.
so it's
All right, so
By the way, guys,
using
how does this
the
look and
impressions
sound?
you
It's a
made in
new-
the photographs,
I'm
did
using
you make
the,
any
camera on the
determinations?
other computer on the marathon.
I determined they were
Does this look and
corresponding
sound good?
consistent with the outsole design of Paul's shoes.
We'll look a little closer here. It State's Exhibit 38. I'm sorry, there appears to be some kind of shadow here on the,
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I'm guys. Paranormal investigation and like normal investigation, it goes hand in hand. Most of the places
States,
I investigate, it's because of
138,
murders,
is that a
deaths, and
picture that
things like
you
that
used from the
that
crime
I'm
scene
there.
to compare
So it
to
only
Paul's
makes sense to
shoes?
follow
It
this
is.
side of things as well. Plus, guys, I've done it
And,
forever. I've had the
what
Mystery
did you determine
Project, which this is
regarding
also
that?
streaming on the Mystery
That one was
Project.
also
I've had that channel
consistent
forever.
with the outsole design of Paul's
But
shoes.
I like kind of mixing the two now. It's been really fun. You guys have loved it.
State's Exhibit
So I think I'm
39.
gonna toss in a bit of true crime every once in a while over here on the haunted side as well. 'Cause it's,
Both of those
and
were
this is a huge
same
case,
outsole
y'all.
design as Paul's shoes.
This is a huge case. So I'm excited to cover it. Thanks for being here, you guys. Hit that like button too if you haven't already.
And we'll go back to
Hit that like button if you haven't already.
State's Exhibit 40. And if you're standing in the feed room, what position are those shoes facing?
Those are facing the window.
Facing the window.
Right.
Did you also notice the door of that feed room?
I did.
And what about the door?
There was a lot of, I guess, blood, brain matter on the outside of the door, not so much on the inside, interior side of the door. There's a little bit at the very top, and hair on top of the door, but not on the rest of the back of the door.
So State's Exhibit 42 here. What can we see?
That's a picture of the exterior side of the door. You can see the blood toward the top of the door.
So that would be like the front of the door.
Right.
And State's Exhibit 43.
And that's also the front of the door.
Okay. And we can see some blood spatter up here in the corner. Would
Yes,
that be right?
that's right.
And then it appears to be hair as well.
Yes,
Is that
that's right.
And we mentioned the defects in the window. States Exhibit 44 here.
Yes.
What can we see there?
Yeah, it's a big deal out there, guys. It's a
Can you
big
see
deal
a hole in that window?
Yes.
throughout the country, the world even. This is
And States
international news,
Exhibit
but
45.
especially in South Carolina where this is happening. This has been like almost, what, 2 years?
Yes, you can see
They've
one
been
of the
waiting for this
defects.
trial to start.
Okay. And do you recall how many
18, 19
defects
months, something like
were in
that?
the window?
6, I believe.
Later, did you have an occasion to go back out to the scene and re-examine that window?
I did.
At that time, can you tell us what you did when you examined the window?
We went to further document, take more measurements of the area. We scaled the defects and took several more measurements of where those defects were in the window.
I'm going to show you States Exhibits 114 and 115. Do you recognize
I
those
mean, again,
images?
y'all,
I do.
What is that?
innocent until
These are
proven
diagrams
guilty,
of the
but
window that I created.
you're
One
gonna do
shows
something
the
like this,
interior side of the window and one shows the exterior
more than
side.
likely you are going to get caught.
Shows
So we'll
where
see.
the defects are located in the window and
We'll
the
see.
measurements that we took for each defect.
That's why we're watching the case, y'all. We're going to see how it
States
unfolds.
114 and 115 into evidence.
Yeah, that we don't even know a motive yet.
Without
Meg.
objection.
Exactly. We don't know what the motive is. He could just come out and say it too.
We're looking here
I
at
did this because of this.
States 114. Do I have that in the correct orientation, Agent Worley?
Yes.
All right. And can you kind of
Maybe he didn't.
explain
Who
to the
knows?
jurors the defects?
The
we're looking
evidence
at
is
here?
pretty solid, though,
There's,
y'all, so far.
defects A through, I
Let's see what the
believe,
defense has to
G.
say. And when it goes to recess, guys,
starting
I'm going to
from
end this
top
stream
to
and I'll
bottom.
start another one a little bit.
Like
when it
where it
comes
says
back.
defect A, defect B. What
Right.
is that?
Those were the locations of where the bullet defects were in the glass.
So those are holes in the glass.
Right. Yes.
And that
I mean,
is from
Doctor,
the
that can be a
inside
motive
of the
sometimes.
feet ring.
Temporary
That's right.
insanity. People do crazy things.
And
the
States
heat of the
Exhibit
moment.
115 here,
But either way,
what is that?
That is the exterior side of the window.
So those are the same defects, but from looking from the exterior, like
Yeah.
from the outside of the room.
Right.
And what was kind of the purpose of that?
In the event reconstruction would ever be done of the scene, it's necessary to have specific measurements to be able to place those bullet defects, those holes back in the window where they were based on measurements.
What else did you recall doing concerning the feed ring?
We collected several of the shot shell pellets. We also swabbed the exterior doorknob of the room just for potential touch DNA.
Did you collect those pellets from the feed ring floor?
Yes, we did.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break for lunch at this time, zone at 2:20. Have a good lunch. Please don't discuss the case.
all right, y'all. So they're breaking for lunch. So I'm going to end this stream. I'm going to end this stream, guys, because they're breaking for lunch. Once it comes back on, I'm going to pop on and do another one. But, guys, if you want to come hang out, I'm going to go live on TikTok right now. I'm going to have some fun over there. So we'll see you guys soon. Man, this case is interesting.